Practical Wallriding was a masterful series made by Jamie Allegro back in Lucio 1.0. His video on Lijiang Tower was what really got me into Lucio. Unfortunately, the videos are largely out of date, and Jamie hasn't uploaded a video in over 2 years. So I'm here to pick up the torch, and if you're wondering, who the heck is this guy? What does he know about wallriding? Well, just watch some of my other videos. Lijiang Night Market is one of the hardest maps in terms of rollouts back to point, mostly because of this hallway. There are several rollouts here that I consider important to learn. This is the rollout I would recommend most players. It sacrifices a small amount of speed in exchange for consistency. Next is the rollout that I use the most. It isn't the fastest rollout, but it's the fastest one that I can do consistently. I recommend hopping into a custom game and practicing this one. If you can get it 4 out of 5 times, it's definitely worth using. It can also be useful in a have to touch the point scenario, because it lets you skip past the choke that most teams hold. The next rollout is focused purely on speed. Although it's extremely difficult to pull off, it'll save you a few seconds on your way to the point. I'm showing a clip from the Wallrider Hey Too Gray because after half an hour I couldn't get one nearly as clean as his. It's extremely hard to do consistently, so I save it for times when it's all or nothing. It's important to note that it does cost you a couple seconds on your amp cooldown because you aren't using it as soon as you spawn in. Last, we have the flank rollout. There isn't really a time where this is the best rollout to use, but if you're having trouble doing the rollout on the sign over the left, this one is much easier to do in a have to touch the point scenario. It's important to know how to climb over this wall from both sides, as it can allow for easy escapes if you're on low health. When fighting on the point, I like to hop around in and out of the windows. You can also use this to look for boops a bit less predictably. Although you can't contest, wallriding to the top of the point and skating around up there can be pretty useful at times, but there's a ledge that stops you on the way up. You can avoid this with a vertical curve or by wallriding off of the pillars that stick out from the wall. For rollouts back to point, there's really only one that you need to know. In terms of pure speed, this one is the absolute fastest, though not by much. I like to use several variations of this rollout just because doing the same one gets boring. One important thing to note is that this building is flipped on the red side, so you have to hit the rock at a slightly different angle. If you want to boop enemies off of the bridge at the start of the round, this is the rollout to do it. However, before you go for it, there are many risks that you need to account for. In a tournament or scrim environment, I never recommend going for it. However, solo queue is much different and a lot more lenient if it ends up failing. The timing for this rollout puts you at the bridge at the same time the enemy gets there if they have a Lucio that amps speed out of spawn. If they don't have a Lucio, you'll be there several seconds before they get there, and it may cost you your life. You also need to consider if the enemy team is running heroes that can or cannot be booped. If you get there and boop off a Winston, Diva, and Lucio, they'll all jump right back up, and you may die for it. If you don't think they'll be running a Lucio, you can finish the rollout right here and look for a boop when you hear them coming, although it's pretty dangerous in higher ranks. Now for booping them off when you already control the point. There are 4 ways that I like to do this, although 2 of them aren't very practical. The first is just sitting right here and booping them as they come. This is the safest way to do it, but enemies can counter it pretty easily, and in GM, it almost never works. The next one is wallriding on this wall and jumping over it when they're on the bridge. This one works very well because they have no idea when you're coming and likely won't see you until it's too late. The only issue this method has is that you don't know when they're on the bridge, so sometimes you may jump over and find nobody there except death. The last 2 are pretty self-explanatory. Although they aren't very practical, they do make for pretty good montage clips. Boop. Boop. If enemies come from White Room, you can look for boops by breaking the barriers here. It doesn't happen very often though. Boop. Dink 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 dink. There's actually one more that I use, but it really only works in CTF, and it's pretty risky. To contest the point, there are also several methods that you can use. You can wall ride along the edges as fast as you can, wall ride around the middle pillar, or mix it up between the two. The outer edge method lets you go in and out of the point through the windows to heal up. I've found that the lower rank you are, the longer you can contest. Last, if the round is about to end, I like to sit up here on the middle pillar and boot people that try to come in to contest. There isn't much in terms of specific wall riding on Control Center, so I only have a couple rollouts to show you. However, the way the map is set up allows you to wall ride for pretty much the entire round without touching the ground. I strongly encourage you to get into a custom game and hop around while trying to aim at one spot. This is the rollout to point. The second one is used in a have to touch the point scenario, where the other team is holding the choke and you need to get around them. When team fights are happening or I just need to contest, I always like to play on top of this pillar. It's really important that you control it if the other team has a Lucio, so always be trying to boot them off of it. Here are a few rollouts if you want to boot somebody off the high ground. And that's the end of the video. I'd really like to apologize for taking so long to upload this one. I have excuses, sure, but there's no reason this should have taken a month. With that said, I hope it helped you out, and I'll see you next time. Non-copyrighted music! Yeah! Ba-dum-ts, ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ch-pa-ka-pa.